I mean, if we here on the eastern shore of the Chesapeake Bay woke up one morning and a plane had run into the Chesapeake Bay Bridge, much as it ran into the Twin Towers or into the Pentagon, and we suddenly couldn't use that bridge any longer, that would be the most urgent issue. That would indeed be the issue of the day, the issue of the year, the issue of our times for people who live on the eastern shore. Well, that's what we're doing to the natural infrastructure. We bombed it, and we bombed it over and over and over again, to the point where I think now it is literally the issue of our times, because if we do not repair the damage, at least in part, that we've done to the natural infrastructure, we're going to find the way we live, the things that we grow, the things that we eat, dramatically changed, and not changed for the better. So it is quite clear that that climate change is forcing us to confront an issue that does not have simple answers, and that if we answer it effectively, will require some sacrifice. Now, I happen to believe that sacrifice is good. Well, we have fought 2 wars with a very small number of people. We have used debt to fund the wars. So we've not sacrificed. I think as a nation, we've got to face up to the fact that we have made some mistakes, and we're going to have to sacrifice to correct those mistakes. Well, I think it thickens because politics thickens it, and so we're now in a political brawl, and everything is politicized. So we used to think about government and politics being the medium through which we govern. Now politics has become supreme and government has become the deep state. And we just simply cannot approach our collective effort, our government effort, by thinking that things are fake and that there are people that are nefarious, that are somehow lurking in the bureaucracies that are trying to do us in. So can we pinpoint precisely where we are, precisely where we will be in 2021 or 2024 or 2027? Probably we can't. But we know that we're sedentary and we have too much weight and we need to take action. It is that we just do things and we quit thinking about what we do, and we just do them over and over and over again, and we are reluctant to change. And I think that would be true generally as we look at the how do I want to say it, the causes of climate change. I mean, we're talking about heat trapping gases. And so, can we, acting together, do 1 million or perhaps billions of things daily, turn the lights off, for example, and in the aggregate make a difference? Or do we just let inertia keep us doing that thing that we do that does in some small way contribute to heat trapping gases? One of the more interesting aspects of writing a column is the fact that you do get a lot of feedback, and the feedback sometimes is a plus and sometimes is a minus, meaning that there are those that agree and those that disagree. And I did have some environmentalists who I know fairly well who really got on me after the second column, because they thought, well, suddenly I was slipping into the denier category. And I said to them, hey, stay tuned. I said at the beginning that this was a series of columns. I was not going to express myself in a single column. I think I said something like, excuse me, because I'm going to meander a bit, because the journey informs the conclusions. Now, you come down to science. There's no doubt that there's been climate change. I mean, that can be proven. But now we have models that then project into the future. And the models, of course, include a number of assumptions. And often what we find is models changing because circumstances that created assumptions change. So is each model perfect? No. Is each sort of scientific approach guaranteed to give you the result in 2030 that they predict? No. But if you take it in the aggregate, it is impossible to escape the fact that the scientific community agrees, believes. It is just simply not possible to gain the clarity worldwide if the United States is on the sidelines. nor because of the extraordinary size of our continent and our population and our use of energy is it possible to accomplish things internationally if we're not involved. So China and India, that are often cited as two of the less compliant and quite large nations, quite populous nations, well, they can use us as an excuse. And so I don't think there's any option that if we're going to effectively combat climate change, the United States has got to become involved. And it is also, we sent a man to the moon. We sent a man to the moon because we fell behind the Soviets. And so we concentrated, and the president concentrated, and the agencies concentrated, and the appropriators in Congress concentrated. And so when America concentrates, and when its enterprises concentrate, the various more high technology enterprises, we can accomplish great things, but we cannot accomplish great things if we're on the sidelines. I'm encouraged because I perceive, I hope correctly, that young people are getting through school and through organizations like the Scouts or the YMCAs or a number of other organizations, environmental education, so that they comprehend our role, meaning the human role in this wonderful environment that we have been given. It's a blessing that is a natural gift. As I grew up and as I recall back, I don't think I was getting that kind of an education in the school. I'm not sure that I comprehended because of education. I think I began to comprehend because I did things. I canoed rivers, I hiked mountains. I'm now a beekeeper. And I think those sort of self-taught or be-taught, if you will, lessons began to have a more and more powerful impact on me. So my hope is that the younger generations, and as I noted, younger Republicans and Democrats seem to agree more about this issue than not. I'm encouraged that we might begin to act because we more fully comprehend our role in nature. Yes, I believe there is a urgency to this, but I don't believe that you can necessarily predict what the world is going to look like in 2050. And often I have wrapped up harm in the context of automobile insurance. We don't anticipate a wreck today or a wreck in the next 10 years, but we buy insurance. And so I think it's important to understand the potential harm, and then I think it's important that we act. And I think it's important we act in a unified way, and there are a number of proposals, some that are already engaged, particularly in Europe, carbon markets, for example, some that are more on the leading edge, carbon sequestration or recycling, some that run into the what I call nuclear power syndrome, which is informed by 3 Mile Island, as in we can't have any more nuclear power because we had at one point a meltdown. I point out that hydroelectric has been a much more dangerous form of energy than nuclear. And I even went so far as to say, well, the Navy is run on nuclear, perhaps we should turn this over to the Navy. Meaning the production of nuclear power, and have sort of a Tennessee Valley Authority approach. And I talk about other things, but the one thing I would like to leave your audience with is that we're a marvelously innovative society when we're fully engaged. So recently I'm glad to see some of the large financial companies, BlackRock, for example, Larry Fink, become engaged. And I think the more that we can get our political figures engaged in a more harmonious set of actions, I think we can both lead here as well as lead in the world.